After 40, how do you even get that? Oh my God, is this a red flag that I should be, considering, or how do you deal with this?
It's basic conversation between people, between the society, that when we are trying to catch neurodivergence, it's not to term it as a disease or a disorder, it's a wiring issue. We are not here to change it. We are here to accept it, include it, and help
Correct.
support, create
So
a support
true.
system for it.
We also live in a country where society does not give you that freedom to say, this is my problem and I'm going to have to try to live around it and try to live with it. And society plays a very big role in not diagnosing, or just the diagnosis being entirely useless.
So, welcome both of you to the Dolly Show today. I'm truly very happy to have you both here. And yes, definitely a new conversation, a new set of questions that we'll be answering. And yes, we have our professional, who is Dr. Radhika, with us. Thank you so much for being here with us. And we have our individual, I would say, a lovely human, Falguni, with us, who is going to share a lot of insights and a lot of details that we should be giving attention to. So, thank you both of you for being here with us. And yes, to start with, what we're going to discuss today is late autism diagnosis. We have seen children being diagnosed early. We have seen teenagers being diagnosed. But what after 40 years of age? I mean, how do you deal with that? And in the first place, how do you catch those signs is what we're going to look at today. Yes, this is going to be really amazing because even I have a lot of questions that I want to get answers to. So let's start with you, ma'am. How do you think I can totally relate to? We always talk about early intervention. Now we are coming up with this concept of even teenagers, being able to detect or, diagnose the red flags. What about people like Falguni who are 40, like me probably? After 40, how do you even get that? Oh my God, is this a red flag that I should be, considering, or how do you deal with this?
I think if you ask anybody who is diagnosed with autism and at a much later age in life, especially women, they have spent their whole life masking to a point that copying behaviors or just trying to fit in. Like, if I behave like this person, it will be okay. If I emote like this person, this is how you're supposed to emote, express, whatever it is. So the catching of the diagnosis cannot happen at early age because the societal construct, how we expect women to operate, comes from that ideology that you're not allowed to express. So we are expecting women to express in a certain way. So when we say that, oh, men or boys get more diagnosed more with autism than women, women are always underdiagnosed. So at a later age, issues when it comes to emotional issues, mental health issues, it gets misdiagnosed as anxiety, depression, personality disorders, mood disorders, eating disorders, but very rarely neurodivergence. It's now that we have enough testing, there should be more research specific to women. There should be specific questionnaires specific to women.
Oh.
Because all these things play a role in it. So how will you catch it if there is no conversation?
I know. And awareness as well.
It's basic conversation between people, between the society, that when we are trying to catch neurodivergence, it's not to term it as a disease or a disorder. It's a wiring issue. We are not here to change it. We are here to accept it, include it, and help just
Correct.
support, create a
So
support
true.
system for it.
So true.
So if we are looking at older people getting diagnosed with autism, a lot of the issues that we are considering as health or mental health issues can get misdiagnosed,
Correct.
but they could just be features of autism. Whether it's fixations on certain textures of food, not being able to emote well, not being able to communicate well, emotional overwhelm. Perimenopausal women will also experience this, menopausal women will
Exactly.
experience this. So, how will you differentiate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How will you?
It's when you stop demanding neurodivergence to mask. We let them unmask. We create a system that lets them unmask and be unmasked. Even if their stunning behaviors, even if their repetitive behaviors feel uncomfortable to neurotypicals, neurotypicals need to handle it.
True.
But can we create a kinder, compassionate world where all these factors are included in conversations, in our language, in our acceptance on a regular basis? Not just as professionals, as people, human beings at the end of the day.
True.
Then we are nothing without connections. So how can we just explode a part of our being just like that? Just because there's an issue in the wiring. When we can repair our devices,
Why can't we repair?
why can't we repair our acceptance towards certain issues?
We have heard it from the doctor. Now we need validation from the one who has actually gone through it. So, you need to tell me what was that moment? Or I do know there was some person who gave you probably this realization. Maybe this is autism. So, what was that moment of realization that got you to that stage where, okay, fine, I should go in for a diagnosis and see what exactly is this?
I mean, so for a little bit of a background, I've always felt like there's something wrong with me. Also, just given the fact that like I'm 41 now, I'm single, I don't like find myself gravitating towards like long-term relationships and things like that. And so, I've been very focused mainly on the work person that I am. And as a person, as a professional, I do a lot of art-related freelancing. I manage artists. I work with artists to produce work and stuff like that. And things like that. So at one point, I was working with this artist group that is a very lovely art group, and they are based out of Khar. And I was working from their studio for a short project. And there was another person working with them who was about my age. And this is about like, I think 2017. So before I was 40.
Yeah.
But it's been a journey since then also, because I did get diagnosed only last year. So I got along with this person. We worked well together, and towards the project ending, we were hanging out one evening at the office and chatting, and she told me that she, one, lives on her own, and two, that she's autistic. Now, this is the first time I actually came across the possibility of an adult person being autistic in a way that is not, if you say autistic, automatically in your head, you think about young children who are deeply
Exactly.
dysregulated, who are dysregulated to the extent that you see their behavior and say कि
can recognize.
इसको किसी के पास लेके जाना चाहिए. Somebody needs to give some feedback on what is happening here. The child is clearly in distress. This is not something that was
Correct.
the case with me, unless very specific instances, right? So I didn't know this was a possibility. And the good thing is that the possibility came to me from somebody that I liked, respected, and thought of as a successful individual, in the sense that she lived alone. She managed her life. She had a job where the people that she worked with were aware of her situation, her diagnosis, and worked around it.
So exactly the replica of your world.
Well,
so to say.
I don't know. My experience has been like the complete opposite of it. But my point is that when I was first given the idea of autism existing in adults in this way, it came from a positive place. So I didn't look at it as a, oh shit.
Oh shit.
It was more like, huh, maybe. Because what she told me is, have you considered, do you go to a therapist? And I said, yes, I do. At that point, I was seeing a therapist, mainly for CPTSD, that's complex PTSD, and a history of child sex abuse and stuff like that. So, I was like, yes, I do. And then she brought up the possibility that she thought that I displayed certain signs of autism. And she said that she recognizes herself in me, which got me thinking. Now, not to say that it was really easy after that, because I also realized shortly after that there is a deep resistance in accepting the possibility of adult autism amongst therapists, amongst doctors, amongst psychiatrists, amongst education people as well. My mom's an educator. She's a teacher. And she's a primary school teacher. So you would think that, of all the people geared to kind of look for these signs, my mom would be part of them. But it matlab ghar mein hota hai, to it does get overlooked quite often because for many, many reasons. So yeah, the fact that it came from this positive place made me want to look into it a little bit more. Not as a problem, but as a, maybe this could explain why I feel differently from other people. Why when people zig, I zag. Up until then, I always thought that was a problem. But when this person came up and presented it as a possibility in a positive way, because I saw that lives as positive, I was a little more friendly to the possibility कि शायद ये मेरा problem भी है. Unfortunately, right after that, I tried to speak to my therapist about it. So it took a long time to get to the point where I could find somebody who was like, fine, it's worth the diagnosis, because the testing in India of any sort is not easy or cheap. So there is that whole thing of, do you have it? So do you even believe in the possibility of it? And then if you believe in the possibility of it, do you want to spend this kind of money? Because if you're spending money to like check your cholesterol, or you're spending money to like check physical health thing, that's something you can automatically change prescription and fix and, go work out tomorrow, change your lifestyle. But when it comes to being diagnosed with autism, there's nothing you can do about it beyond.
Exactly.
There's no medicine you can take to fix yourself. So the question is, how will it even help you? Will it even help you? So I think these are all the kind of things that you have to sort of tackle. And unfortunately, those are just things that you have to tackle on your own. There will be people in your life who will say yes to it, no, don't do it, and whatever. But it's really up to you, because it is an expensive thing. And like the reason I got tested was that I was also working in a space where getting that test would allow me to get certain benefits or certain considerations from my workspace. For that, they needed that paper, right? Now, that's because I worked in an international organization which functions under different sort of rules. But again, if you were working in a corporate space in India, I don't know how useful that would be in that way. But we also live in a country where society does not give you that freedom to say, this is my problem, and I'm going to have to try to live around it and try to live with it. And, that's maybe something we can talk about in another question, that society plays a very big role in not diagnosing, or just the diagnosis being entirely useless.
This is so sad.
Yeah, it is.
This is a really is a fact that is really, I mean, not diagnosing and still living with it. It's so painful.
Yeah, but then the other side of that coin is
Probably
getting diagnosed, but having absolutely no one around you understand what that means.
it's all the more worsening.
So you're isolated both ways.
Correct. It's a bad space to be in.
Yeah, I have a new therapist now who I've been seeing for like the last 6 months. And she's the first person who has straight up told me, that must be so lonely. And I started crying, like, because I don't think anybody has actually put it that simply, but with that much compassion in my own life.
Doesn't take much to be kind, no?
Nowadays it does.
It does, apparently.
It's a crazy world. And I think neurodivergents are coming into the system to teach us and get us back to roots. That yes, you need to have empathy, you need to have these emotions, you need to be rooted and not be machines, and have the affection, have the love, have the compassion for people. So I think y'all are here to take us back to where we were. Y'all are at the right track. And I think it's not too far where we will be seeing y'all more, and we will be the ones who are rare. But tell me something. I do understand you got the diagnosis now. Once you got your diagnosis, when you go back in time, then could you relate that, oh my God, yeah, this was happening with me in childhood and this is the reason? So can you now identify those red flags, or were there any?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of my childhood is just marked by me not knowing what to do in any situation, and like looking around and seeing the most accepted person and copying what they're doing. And it is weird, but I mean, I've always felt that मैं like बचपन से manipulative हूँ is because of this.
Yeah, I mean,
Because you think that you are a bad person because you're literally gaming every interaction that you're involved in.
correct.
And when you realize that you've been doing it since your childhood, and maybe eventually there was some trauma, but from my from my earliest memory, it's literally about gaming the system.
Correct.
And
Because
it's also important to realize like that because somebody has autism does not mean that you give them a free pass.
correct.
But at the same time, because somebody is quote unquote gaming the system, they're not being evil. They're
Correct.
just trying to survive.
Just trying to.
So if I look back in my life, through my childhood, there's lots of instances of me just trying to survive. Like trying to, acha, I don't know what to do in the situation. This is, oh, that person's doing this, let me do that. Nobody's yelling at them. So they must be doing the right thing. But that's literally how I ended up being a child sex abuse victim. So because you are looking at people around you for how to be. And unfortunately, if your abuser happens to be one of the people that you're looking at. And that's the other thing that I discovered also later on, that autistic children are often at the risk of sexual abuse as children, boys and girls. Because one, they do not instinctively know it's okay, not okay. And two, they don't necessarily know how to communicate it. And I'm not talking about the children who are displaying extreme symptoms and things like that. I'm talking about like people like me who are verbal, but at the same time just have difficulty navigating life because we don't understand life. And then, so, I mean, really just finding out and then putting my past into context was really, really useful for me. because you keep questioning yourself constantly to the point that you're like, am I a good person? And then you realize you are.
Yeah. With
This is just you trying to go through it. And honestly, all the manipulation, so to speak, that you have done has not hurt anybody. It's only helped you just get to this point. It's very exhausting.
I'm hearing it and it's so disturbing, and you have gone through it. I can't even imagine the kind of.
Yeah, I'm really freaking out saying this out loud because I know that there'll be friends of mine who will hear it and then try to go back in time and go like, Falguni ne ye bola tha. Was she trying to manipulate us, or what are you doing? You know, and it's something that naturally happens. So it's not even like, oh, they're going to do this. But yeah, it's a very strange, isolating space. I'm just very lucky that I have other people in my life who are diagnosed autistic or ADHD, which has overlaps and stuff like that. So it's a learned process of being kind to yourself also.
As she said, people on the spectrum are more vulnerable. Could you just throw some light on that?
One of the reasons that happens is because it's about understanding social nuance, right? What an autistic or a neurodivergent individual can be called manipulative, they don't know it's manipulative. Correct? How will they pick on somebody else being manipulative? So if somebody is grooming them, manipulating them, trying to be inappropriate with them, how will they know it? And if they don't know it, how do they communicate it? So when the processing itself is hardwired to be different, how can we even expect? So they become even more vulnerable than neurotypicals. Now, the example I want to give, and this is the first time I will ever disclose this on public forums. I have been through child sexual abuse. I am called neurotypical. She has been through child sexual abuse. She's called neurodivergent. Was I able to communicate? No. But I can process it better. I can live with it. I can understand it, what it did to me, and not let it hold it over me, correct? But it is a fight. For her, you can imagine that not having enough support, not having people believe you, that's common in both sides. But I still have the processing power for whatever miraculous reason. But how are our experiences negated?
Correct.
Both experiences get negated, minimized, hers more than mine. I can guarantee you that. Because there is no support system that's created over time to enable her or me to be able to express it. Now, I'm sitting here because I've trained in it, right? I'm a professional. So suppose I was a professional, I was a doctor, but I was autistic. Different space. My brain will understand all the information that this happened. These are the facts. But what about the emotional processing? What it did to your body, what it did to your mind, how it wired your brain? A trauma-wired brain versus a neurodivergent wired brain is different. We need to understand and talk about the differences. Also, why professionals need to understand the differences so we can catch it, because we need to protect the vulnerable populations. Children, especially neurodivergent kids, are more prone because there is not enough awareness, not enough training. In my medical college, entire 9 years that I've studied, other than a mention as a diagnosis, we have no training.
There's no training.
So if there is no bedside manner inquisition done, any kind of case history done, on what basis am I supposed to catch it? Okay, psychiatrist is trained. But if you see her uphill fight to find a psychiatrist, find a therapist, find somebody to listen, you can equate that across women's health, more so in neurodivergence, especially in men.
It's a crazy situation. It's a crazy situation because as I started, we are all being conditioned to have this early diagnosis and early intervention. This is now that we are looking into this particular segment.
Yeah.
And it's coming up now.
Yeah.
And
it's also
it's been
because
there.
it's hard for people.
Mm.
Okay, now imagine my mother, who is like 70, has to accept the fact that her daughter is not an asshole, but actually autistic. And now she's dealing with the guilt of it, and I don't want her to because it's not her fault.
Nobody's
She didn't have
nobody's
tools back
fault.
then. As an educator, she was never given tools. That's how bad the situation is here. And it sucks that, like, you know, कि मैं भी मेरा baggage लेके घूम रही हूँ और मेरा baggage अब मम्मी पे चला गया है.
Correct.
And in that, now then it's also hampering her helping me in the present because again, as an older person who's suddenly confronted with
Even they are not equipped.
fully,
Even they don't know.
fully, and then she has to look back and go like, did I neglect her? Did I ignore her? Was I a bad parent? And I was like, no, you're just a single parent. You were doing your best. You know, so it's that.
It's a roller coaster.
It is.
Yeah, dude, an adult diagnosis is roller coaster.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
at this point, my brother and I don't have a relationship right now. But one of the things that I was really keen on communicating to him is that, hey, I'm autistic. You have a kid now, so just keep an eye out, or maybe look at yourself. I don't know. But his take on me is, you have always been emotionally dysregulated and explosive. So that is his understanding of me. He's not in the space to like look at it and say, okay, if this is my sister's diagnosis, can I look back and make her not the villain in hindsight?
As an adult today.
Yeah, as an adult today.
And that's his journey, and I hope he gets around whatever. But wo dekhenge, that's the future. But I'm just saying, like, it's not an easy thing to navigate even for the people around you.
Exactly.
You know, we keep
Explaining them and even to be very frank, as we spoke about your mom, they are not equipped to even understand what this situation is. Okay, talking about emotions, how have you been able to tackle your emotions? Because
badly.
we're not able to, but
Badly. Oh, no, really badly. I'm not very good at like managing them. In fact, yeah, I've unfortunately in the last 3 years had 2 heart attacks. And it's not related to cholesterol and things like that. It's literally been that the strain on myself has been so extreme, that the stress levels have been so extreme internally. Like you won't look at me and think isko stress ho raha hai.
Even as a professional,
yeah,
anybody who looks at her, right? The first thing would be, and I will hate for saying, I don't care if I'm hated for saying this, would be like, oh, it must be because of eating habits. Oh, it must be because of the weight.
Yeah, I've been
Nobody
accused
even
of being a smoker.
considers.
yeah, we're not conditioned on it. Na? We've never seen this aspect. ये कभी parameters में ही नहीं है हमारे
Can you imagine the load on her nervous system for
I
40
know.
years to have to fit in, the pressure to fit in, to be accepted, to feel like थोड़ी बहुत हमारी जैसी है.
Correct.
Also, I will say this, that if I was a man, people would take it way more seriously. मेरा थोड़ा सा भी गुस्सा बहुत सीरियस ले लिया होता, and people would be telling, अरे फाल्गुनी को ऐसे मत बोलो, उसको हार्ट अटैक आ जाएगा, उसको स्ट्रेस होगा, because men are allowed to get stressed.
Yeah. They are the ones doing all the work. They're the ones who, so to say, world के forefront पे वही है ना. हम कहाँ हैं? We are.
I mean, I found out that women have heart attacks in different ways than men do. Like, we don't have that chest hurt and this and that.
And
Like,
whether
alag-alag
it's-
type se aa jate hain.
Whether it's heart disease, whether it's menstrual disorders, whether it's diabetes, whether it's any kind of metabolic issues, our biology is different.
Correct.
It will be presented different.
My take is if you focus on neurodivergence, it'll actually include neurotypicals.
100%.
It's that thing about like if you make things accessible for disabled people,
100%.
it increases accessibility.
दिव्यांगजन का बोर्ड लगा के वहाँ रैंप नहीं है, ब्रिज क्रॉस करने के लिए जगह नहीं है।
Correct.
बोर्ड लगा के क्या कर रहे हो?
क्या ही कर रहे हो? Just
It's very simple, like having cut fruits.
Yeah.
Which the idea came for
Yeah.
as a thing for like disabled people, right? But it helps single people,
Yes.
people who are busy,
Yes.
who are neurotypical and don't have issues, just are busy.
too busy.
Or it helps like people with too many kids who don't have the time to
Yeah.
sit and chop and cut.
Yeah.
Or it helps older people.
Yes.
Like it and it creates plastic ions.
And more than that, the more we protect and create systems to protect the most vulnerable populations, which are the disabled, whether physical or mental health disabilities, whether visible or invisible. A lot of autism comes under invisible disability. They could
correct.
be high functioning autistic.
correct.
See you there.
Hmm.
They're still struggling.
Yeah, yeah. Correct.
So imagine the level of masking at that age, or at that stage. So you have to behave in a leadership role without having the processing power of it. So you can imagine the load on that poor nervous system who is not even meant to take it.
Correct. Who's not wired to take it,
Hey, nahi.
for that matter. Yeah.
But what system are we creating? So whether it is through leadership, through corporate, private public partnership, if we are able to create inclusive systems where neurodivergents are also hired and made comfortable in your existing structures across public policy, public health, public infrastructure, corporate policies, jobs, everywhere.
Everywhere.
I know it's a utopia and imaginary, unrealistic, realistic. But it's a hope because without having them being protected, they're a part of our society. At no point should we become so ignorant and arrogant to be able to sideline one population and say, उनका देखना क्या जरूरत
क्या
है? तो
जरूरत?
उनको तो प्रॉब्लम है ना, के व्यू पॉइंट में प्रॉब्लम है.
So, we did talk about emotions. Now, how have you been able to manage relations?
Badly. I feel like the answer to everything is badly. No, I mean, so I'm just going to say about me because, again, different people have their own sort of paths at navigating these things. With my situation, it's been very clear from the start, like from my childhood to me, that friends are people you're in love with. Not like you want to hook up with them, but you're in love with them. Like, otherwise, I can't be friends with you. I have to completely like everything you're doing. Unfortunately, the downside of that is then I need you to love me back in the same way that I love you.
Correct.
Which is not easy, which is not possible.
Which is
even.
not possible.
Like, if you were
Nobody.
that person, then you would have, like, I don't know, kids, pets, job, this, that, other, what's up, right? Now, so for me, it would be like, how do I get your attention
Correct.
now?
Correct.
And what do I say and how do I present myself so that you will give me attention but not even go like, oh, I'm dealing with this and now Falgun needs attention.
Correct.
But and also, like, not everybody else believes that you have to be in love with your friends.
Yeah.
So, this basic mismanaged, sorry, not mismanaged, but like basic dissonance between most people's understanding of friendship and my understanding of friendship. For me, it's like friendship is higher than your lover, your husband, all of that. Friendship is friendship. This is something I have chosen versus like it's been given to me. Because we live in an arranged marriage society, I'm counting also like marriage within that. But so yeah, it's very, very difficult because then there are times when you're extremely stressed. As I mentioned, I've been unwell over the last couple of years, and what that has culminated in is a lot of my internal sort of patience towards myself for the amount of masking that I live within is gone. So now I throw tantrums at my friends to love me, which they don't understand. So in the last 6-8 months, where I actually need them the most, I have set all my friendships on fire.
Except this one.
I mean, not all, but many, many important ones. And but it's done the smart thing and just said, sorry guys, I need a break. Because I need to figure out how much of this drama is mera drama, how much of it is your misunderstanding of it. So that I can then approach it like that and then get you back in my life. Because that is the eventual thing.
Yeah.
Eventual goal.
You have to come back to me.
Yeah.
I have to collect you back.
And the basic need at the root of it is human connection, right? COVID taught us that lesson that as human beings, we cannot live in isolation. But in a society that we are creating and eventually becoming, where everybody is living very isolated, separate lives, people barely in touch with each other, only on WhatsApp, only through screens, friends moving to countries. As it is making friends after a certain age becomes difficult. And then for neurodivergence, it becomes even more difficult because the acceptance criteria changes. For example, neurotypical, I don't want kids. Neurodivergent doesn't want kids. Our reasons may be very different.
Correct.
But the expectation of the viewpoint is very different.
Correct. The lens
The
changes.
commonality is we couldn't care less what you think.
True.
Because it's a choice at the end. So when it comes to developing, maintaining friendships, the effort has to be universal. It cannot be just on one person. Like she has to figure out so many things that she has just enlisted, right? I can't even imagine doing that. For me, it would look neurotypical, whatever. I am way too busy to have time to do all this. So I have my reasons, but these reasons are accepted.
Correct.
But it is overwhelming for her, it's not accepted.
Though it's also the other thing, right? Like, so if, for instance, within the construct of my version of friendship, if I have a friend who has been diagnosed with something like, say, an anxiety, I will go out of my way to make sure that I don't do that to you and that I am there for you when, so I will learn everything about your anxiety, not about anxiety in general, but how you, as Dolly, my friend, show anxiety, deal with anxiety, what manages your anxiety, what do I need to do? I will be a PhD level expert in that. On the other hand, सामने से वो आता नहीं है पर वो आना भी नहीं चाहिए because it's not everybody's job to learn everything about everyone. It's also the thing where you have to find a way to like live with people.
Yeah. And that's one of the strengths that I always think about whether it's with her or with any of even my patients or friends, relatives, whoever who is neurodivergent. One of their strengths is to get detail. They are so detail oriented. Why can't we leverage simple strengths like that?
So true.
To enable forward movement?
True. Very true.
So suppose I have anxiety. She has learnt about my anxiety. I can still rely on her as support. no?
Correct.
And still offer the same amount of support.
Mm.
Because apparently as a neurotypical, I have the processing power, no? But हम नहीं कर पाते हैं.
नहीं कर
It's too much.
Mm.
So imagine a neurodivergent individual's lifelong story of just being called, you are too much, this is too much, you are not doing the right thing, you're not behaving right. So the language never changes.
Mm. Correct.
So what they all end up hearing is,
You're not worth the effort.
Yeah.
हमसे ना हो पाई.
No, also that you are not worth the effort.
Yeah.
Like whatever effort you're willing to take for me,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
cannot. I have
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah.
Mm.
And even if it's
Which
not
is
about the-
great until you
Yeah.
come to a point where you are in need and then you are like, shit, where's my community? Which
Right.
I have worked so hard and
Given
manipulated
so
so
much.
hard to build.
Yeah.
So
And doubly high.
yeah.
It's always been okay. There is no
Mm.
plateauing only.
Correct.
Ki, अरे थोड़ा stability. No. It's always an uphill battle.
Mm.
Why I said neuro basic is we will have a plateau. We will have a place where we will have friends, where we will have a community. हम जो बोल रहे हैं सामने वाले को समझ में आ रहा है, सामने वाला जो बोल रहा है उसका nuance, उसका hidden meaning सब समझ में आ रहा है. Right? We have that processing.
Mm.
How can we make it better for those who can't? That's okay.
Correct.
Why is there judgment in it?
Mm.
So one of the things, the only thing that is my goal, even to be as a friend for her,
Mm.
is to do what she needs, not what I cannot do. It doesn't come in the picture
Correct.
because it's not. I'm not doing her any favor.
Mm.
We are doing each other
Each
a
other.
very good support system. That's
Correct.
all. That's all is the job. But if we are not able to even create that kind of kindness, compassion, grace, and offer that to each other, neurotypical, neurodivergent, whatever it is,
Correct.
And I think it just comes from a lack of understanding. Like, I think as much as I say, like, I want my friends around me and all that, my most comfortable space is a very non-verbal space.
Mm.
If you and I are hanging out as friends, I'm not constantly talking to you. I have no interest in constantly talking to you. I want to be around you because being around you makes me feel a certain way, which becomes positive in my life.
yeah, it's
And I feel like the problem in that situation also becomes like if your friends already know that you have issues and all of that, they're almost like, oh shit, why do they want to hang out with me so desperately? Oh no, are they like
yeah.
going to
Is there
trauma
some-
dump at me today?
But
Mm.
that
आज मेरा bandwidth नहीं है trauma dump का,
And
but
that
actually all I
is-
want to do is sit in my corner and play on my phone while you are doing your thing on the side.
and that is a feature of autism.
Mm.
Yeah, I just
Being
I'm just your
okay
pet.
with the safe person, being
Yeah,
okay
yeah.
to be themselves, to be their unmasked, stimming, whatever self,
Mm.
without judgment, because that person has created that for them.
Correct.
But if any neurodivergent individual responds to consistency and structure.
Mm.
So when neurotypicals behave the way we behave by going fluctuating we are not consistent.
Mm.
We are not able to create and maintain that safe space. So it's
Mm.
not about saying I have to be 100% present for a neurodivergent friend or an individual child, parent, whatever. It is more about saying I have to at least communicate if I'm not available.
Mm.
Because the nuance, hidden meaning, आपके अंदर का thought process, कैसे समझेगा?
कैसे समझे? Yes, so true.
So all, even if suppose she contacts me and says, hey, I need help with this, and all I have to do is, okay, I have a lot on my plate right now. Can I get back to you by tomorrow?
Mm.
So it's not that I'm rejecting
Mm.
or I'm going silent,
Yeah.
not responding.
So true.
Because
And-
that difference itself makes a change.
Correct.
I'm doing nobody any favors. I'm no
Mm.
great person. It's the basic communication
Mm.
skills.
And the connection.
And respect for that connection
Mm.
also, and understanding the value of that, what that person is bringing to
Mm.
your life as well, right? It's
Correct.
not just about it's texting भेजना है ना, नहीं,
Mm.
you are respecting that. So if we can't respect individuality, part of them being who they are is also, you are also respecting that. So if we are not able to do that, we are not going to be able to maintain a safe space.
True. So if supposedly there's a typical situation where, you are in desperate need of either a friend or you want, maybe you're stuck in a situation and you want an answer. So is it that a therapist helps you or a friend helps you, or what do you resort to?
Well, unfortunately, the problem with getting diagnosed so late in life and also having not the greatest counselors, therapists, psychiatrists is that you learn to self-soothe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No other
there's
choice.
no other way. I mean, it's that, or I would have jumped off something, and like I earlier said, there's no inclination in me yet to jump off anything.
Yeah.
I think that I started doing suicidal ideation when I was like a teenager, which was like honestly just an offshoot of CSA, but I always understood that this is just khayali pulao. Yeah. This is just me making myself feel better. हाँ एक दिन मैं मर जाऊंगी और तब तुमको पता चलेगा. That vibe.
It's not manipulative.
It's not manipulative. It's
No, I literally have had this thought when I was a teenager. Oh, when I die, na, then Mrs. Karthik will know. Mrs. Karthik doesn't know I exist. You know, but you are the main character in your head, especially as a teenager. You are the only person in the
At least
world.
You want to be that. At least in your head, you want to be the main character.
So yeah, you self-soothe. I mean, look, over time, if you are lucky, you also develop relationships where, I know I can reach out to Radhika if I'm in a very bad way. I know that there are 1-2 other people that I mentioned, the friends that I mentioned who are AU, PhD or whatever. I know that if I reach out to them and say like, hi, I'm just not doing okay. Can you talk to me for a bit? I know that they will, but this is now. And it's also not everyone. So if those 2-3 people are not available, then it's a little bit figure it out.
Yeah.
Do whatever. Pick at your skin. Play with your cat.
Yeah.
And I think, that's where I've realized that one of the things that I need to do, and this is really helpful for me, is that I've realized that even though I've been raised as an intellectual, so to speak, like my schoolmate teachers were always like, "Aap writer banoge and ye and wo," I'm actually more of a doer. Because writing requires more thought process, that requires more processing power from me, which is exhausting. I'm not saying I don't like doing it. I do enjoy doing it, especially when it's something I care about. So I can write long theses about TV and stuff like that, and like politics and TV or things like that. But at the same time, I can't do it about everything. But no, I mean, sorry, what I was saying is that I've started like doing things with my hands. So I first tried to like do some embroidery. Then I realized that I have that little autism finger mobility problem. So that becomes hard. But then I started doing lino cuts, and then I realized I actually really love doing it and I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
Jeez. So yeah, sometimes I just carve.
Because it's a solo focused effort. It's a feature, right? When we are leveraging any kind of strengths, looking at their interests, whether it's detail oriented, deep diving into things that really, really are pleasing to them. Not what's expected, whether it's academics, whether it's professional lives, anything. It cannot be a norm. When they have never fit the box, why are we expecting them to fit the box? Whether it's in schools, whether it's in why cannot we create that kind of a system where even autistic kids, even if they're high functioning autistic kids, why are they expected to be sitting in one place, not stimming, medicated, to be able to sit in one place when they actually cannot? And it's not that they are sitting and deciding, oh, today I will be hyperactive. I will get up and wake up and be hyperactive and run around the class 20,000 times and disturb the class. And not doing it for fun. Nobody decides and gets up and decides to do that.
Okay. So in this conversation, we did talk about strengths as well. Definitely. We have been speaking a lot about challenges, what we have not been able to do. We have a major chunk in our life that we have achieved. Your strengths, which are the most important, because only if you focus on them is when you're actually moving towards success or giving a meaning to your life. So, if I may talk about how did you shape your career and what have you been doing now?
I always liked writing. The problem was I liked writing fiction, which also mostly started as a way to copy like the fun out of some Archie's comics I was reading as a kid. And I remember there was this Jughead story where Jughead encounters aliens or something. It was like a Halloween issue. And that kind of inspired me to write something about me encountering an alien on my street, which then got noticed by some teacher who was like, oh, you can write really well. Then suddenly, you know how school is sometimes. So like, हाँ ये तो अच्छा लिखती है ना, we will send her for every like elocution competition and all, which you should not have done to me, because I have gone on stage and frozen like 7,000 times, because as much as I can write, I can't do the performance part.
Yeah.
Correct.
So much.
I mean, I can if I'm just fully doing it, but but at the same time, I like acting. I've done acting, and I like theater. I realized like one of the things that I like in my hyper focus is communicating, because somehow the need to communicate what I really feel and not be misunderstood is so strong that like I literally did journalism. Like my degree is in journalism. I did a journalism school. I enjoyed journalism because when it's school, all the teachers were like, you write really well, you should become a journalist. Because journalism ka understanding in the 90s was very different from journalism ka understanding in 2005 when I graduated from college. Where suddenly BMM was a thing and DNA and HT and everybody was coming into Bombay. Pehle Bombay mein there was just like Times of India and like Indian Express. That was it, right? And Free Press Journal and Afternoon and midday. But that was pretty much it. And then suddenly like everything exploded. And that's when I realized I'm not a journalist. I just genuinely like to write about things that I care about, which are very niche. Like very specific types of theatre, contemporary art that nobody gives a shit about even today. like it's also like my specialization is just isolating myself further, because you're like you go from like college to a job in contemporary art and all your friends are like, wo kya hota hai?
Correct.
And then the way you trick them into becoming part of that life is, hey, you know, openings pe free booze aati hai.
Yeah.
So then all your friends show up for that.
Yeah.
But it's about, I don't know, I think I think one of my strengths is just to find hacks. I don't believe something can't be done.
Yeah.
You just have to figure it out. I think everything can be done. You just have to figure out how to do it. I mean, we're flying.
I know.
So what do you mean we can't do things?
Correct.
Yeah.
Man has been on the moon. And so what do you mean we can't like navigate life?
Correct.
It's a little dumb.
So it's as simple as they are being neurodivergent. The beauty about it that from same in a very basic neurotypical brain is the curiosity to find and to always be out of the box. So whether it's innovation, whether it's design, there will be problem solving to another level if we leveraged this kind of thinking. Whether it's in implementing strategy, design, innovation, these kind of infrastructure designs that we are suffering from. I wish a neurodivergent designed it, because it would be perfect.
Perfect.
It would be adhering to norms. It would be perfect. It would work for everybody,
Correct.
which is exactly what you said. If we made a world for neurodivergents, neurotypicals would live better.
But any day. Any day.
By, for, from.
So true, so true. Because they take care of intricate things and they think of
Details.
every aspect.
Every aspect.
Nothing left.
3,000 details are perfectly done.
Correct.
Everything is aligned, structured. What are we complaining about? And how is this a problem? I fail to see it.
Complaining about why this different kind of thinking. The neurotypicals are not able to accept.
I think eventually the problem just comes down to like society as it is.
ये system बना हुआ है. Why is this being changed?
It's like you said, now why does a divergent child have to sit in one place?
Yeah, why?
Because that's what schools say you
What is
must
the
do.
logic?
That's what schools say
Whoever
you must do.
coined this system or made the system, it did not even design it for neurotypicals, forget neurodivergence.
So true, so true.
So, at what point are we wanting to continue with the system and label and use the label and misuse the label to the point that it's not even in the interest of the child? So, even if, especially when somebody is on the spectrum and is non-verbal, the difficulty is so much higher because from interpretation, reading body language to understanding the cues, understanding their stimming, self-soothing behaviors, rocking movements, whatever it is, objects, object permanence, fixation, everything that we look at clinically, they are all just coping mechanisms.
Correct.
Because it's either going to be too loud, too much for them to figure their way out. And if they are not verbal, or if they are high functioning, it is still too much apparent.
Correct.
So if I have a meltdown, I would be called, "Arey yaar, हाँ stressed है, हो सकता है." But if an autistic individual or a neurodivergent individual has their meltdown because everything is too much,
True.
it's called नहीं यार, but ये behavior का problem है. Take a tablet, suppress it down. वैसे भी wiring में गड़बड़ी
And then apologize for it.
and
like
then
till you die.
apologize for it, guilt tripped, and then be manipulated into thinking and believing that you are a problem.
That's why I said, no, like, I think one of the greatest struggles is just to convince myself every day that I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
So true.
And that's a basic human need.
Yeah.
All we need is to be seen, felt, heard. So even if it is as simple as absolutely correctly pointed out by Falguni, if she wants a hug, it has to be communicated in a way that's palatable to another individual.
Correct.
So if she just goes and hugs somebody, it's not considered appropriate. Why so? It's personal space. But we are not even considering that there may be that hindrance in the process, barrier है, जानबूझ के नहीं कर रहे हैं. So many times in patients I've seen that. A lot of autistic kids, they will just come and hug. And I am glad that they come and hug because I'm like, certificate of safe space.
Correct.
I'm no great person. Not at all. One cog in the wheel, one speck of grain. But if they've come and done that, it is because they feel it. I have not done anything.
And I don't think a lot of people realize how much of a gift that acceptance is.
Yes.
And not necessarily just to autistic people, just to like people with disabilities. Because
Yes.
I have a cousin who's a physiotherapist and he practices in South India. And he has a lot of young children who come to him who are often non-verbal and have like physical developmental issues, right? That he's working with them on. And he also has adult clients. And of course, these children are boys and girls. And when I visited him a couple of years ago, I went to his office space and stuff like that. And I saw some of his clients because he also runs a gym on the side. And I was seeing him interact. And one of the things he said kind of made me feel so sad. But at the same time, I'm like, this is the world we live in also. That when the patients who are young girls, when they get past a certain age, he's very careful about how physical right? But at the same time, I'm like, I'm really glad you're doing that because lines get crossed very easily. And but at the same time, you're also taking away this child's safe space.
Yeah.
Because we live in this really shitty world. Yeah. And it is kind of fucked up that, sorry, I don't know if you can say that. It's kind of messed up that, in case you, it's kind of messed up that we live in a world where it's not encouraged for children to physically be affectionate out of fear of what it could lead to.
Yeah. So we are
And that's so messed
minimizing
up.
it. So we are minimizing the importance of it.
We're also telling children who maybe feel comfortable in this way that आपका way गलत है. So I do have, for instance, difficulty being physical with people. Like I'm only physical with, like, I mean, Radhika said, if Falguni wants to hug you, Falguni rarely wants to hug you.
Yeah.
Falguni does not want to touch you because of various things. But then there are those 3 people that I do want to hug.
Yeah.
You know, it's that. But I wonder if I didn't have my unfortunate experiences,
What
would I be a different person? Would I have a
Yeah.
different, was my real autistic self a huggy person? I don't know. I wish. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, like that's the other thing, that as an adult person getting this kind of a diagnosis, there's so much grieving for the person that you were that did not get recognized.
Yeah.
So as a 41-year-old, I'm minding my own business, I'm doing my thing, watching something on TV, but something reminds me of something that happened when I was 12. And then I feel so bad for my 12-year self. And then suddenly, like, I have 3 hours that I have wasted feeling bad for my 12-year self, going in a bad mood, then working on regulating that bad mood, and now it's 3 a.m. and I haven't slept.
Yeah.